circling back. Let's talk about number 8, the final core competency, y'all.
And this goes under the big category of cultivating learning and growth.
Yes, cultivating learning and growth. And this is the only competency under that, but it's got a lot of sub-competencies. So number 8, facilitates client's growth. Definition of that is partners with the client to transform learning and insight into action. Promotes client autonomy in the coaching process. So let's dive right into our sub-competency numero uno. Number 1, works with the client to integrate new awareness, insight, or learning into their worldview and behavior.
So it's not enough to just, from the previous core competencies to generate a bunch of insight and awareness. And great, we've learned new things about ourselves. That has to be turned into action somehow. And so you're going to be asking the client, given what you've just realized or learned or seen or talked about, how are you going to move forward? What is going to be different? You got to generate these ideas into an action somehow.
So it's translating the awareness and the insight into an actual movement, action, something that anchors it in.
Mm-hmm.
Being aware. Go ahead.
Go on. It's just sort of
being aware that when we're in the coaching world, we're looking through the client's eyes, not through our eyes. So taking that information, that growth mindset that they have shared within, it's helping them. I'm using this word, I'm not sure it's the right one, be grounded in what they are deciding to experiment with.
And I think this was really well described in the ICF video on this competency, is that once your client has that aha moment that like, oh my goodness, I behave this way, I want to, and by shifting their view and realizing that, they go, okay, now I know how I want to behave. And this is bringing that into real world actions, and it extends beyond just even what the current goal is. How is this going to apply to everything in their lives? And how will they apply this awareness beyond just having the awareness? All right, next one, shall we? Partners with the client to design goals, actions, and accountability measures that integrate and expand new learning.
So you are going to find in your coaching career that when your client learns new things or has new insights, their initial goals might change, or they probably will end up changing to a certain degree, but they might do a full 180. So after the new learning happens, try to reassess, are these the goals that your client wants to do? If they've changed or they stay the same, doesn't matter. Then you got to come up and partner with them to figure out what they need to do to get to those goals. And then how are we going to measure it some way? How are we going to be accountable to actually completing those actions? That's my thoughts on it.
Also, big reminder, you are not their accountability solution. Yeah. You don't get to be the accountability solution. You are not. No, they can't call you. No, you can't call them. No, there has to be an external, something that is not, happens outside the coaching session that works for them, that holds them accountable. Mm-hmm. So, and it has to, whatever they'll plan that. I've had people go, no, I just need, knowing is all the accountability I need. Okay, that works for me.
So having, part of this is building their cognitiveness of future experiences, so that they're not, you're basically trying to put yourself out of business in a sense by giving them that space to be self-fulfilling versus you self-empowering versus you being the crutch that they have to come back to. So part of this coaching is to make sure you don't turn yourself into their crutch. So where they have to always come back to you. So empowering them to find the solutions outside of you, and in the process of their ability to rethink a next problem or a next thing they have to work through, they'll already have that set up. They'll already have that new pattern developed. They'll already be able to latch into that so that they don't have to come back in for a coaching session necessarily.
And that you pretty much covered number 3, which was acknowledges and supports client autonomy in the design of goals, actions, and methods of accountability. Everything Lisa said just covered that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to number 4 then. Supports the client in identifying potential results or learning from identified action steps. So you can't foresee what the results of any given action are, really. You can kind of speculate, but the client needs to be the one who anticipates those results and then decides, are those results desirable or not? And if they're not, maybe they should, identify different action steps to take to get the results that they want.
I think about this as a proactive steps for them to help themselves see the different potentials that could either prevent them from moving forward or outside sources that can prevent them, and what other kinds of interaction and information sources, what else do they need that helps them get to that ideal action step.
And I think in identifying potential results, sometimes the client is tunnel visioned onto a very specific result, and the coach can highlight smaller results that they may not have noticed. And I think that that can be very helpful to facilitating the client's growth. It's like spotlighting that for them.
And that goes back to the previous core competency with sharing your observations. You can observe results that the client can't see across, multiple coaching sessions. Feel free to share that with them. Let's move on to number 5.
Number 5, I'm going to read it this time. It's my turn.
All right, fine.
Invites the client to consider how to move forward, including resources, support, and potential barriers. So everybody was silent at the end of that.
No, you want to talk? You go ahead.
I just wanted to read it. How to consider how to move forward, including resources, support, and potential barriers.
Yeah, we kind of threw this in some of the other the sub-competencies of this as well. That invitation on, the things that they're going to need along the way. What can they plan for in that unplanned place? What do they have? What do they need? What do they not know? Obviously, they can't plan, say what they don't know, but how can they plan for that next phase of things? So it's kind of those planning, the deeper dive into the planning stage.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward stuff and we're getting into the more concrete steps here. And so it is. I think the potential barriers is an important one here, just sort of exploring, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about this plan? And you can get some information from that. And then if, they give you a 6 or a 7, you start to explore, well, let's talk about, what's preventing you from being at a 10, or let's talk about how we get that 7 to a 10 so that you can be comfortable. And that's where those sort of, well, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that, I think this might happen, I think, and those are those barriers that'll start to come up. They'll start to share those with you. And then you can sort of speak into those. Sometimes that can be result in a whole separate coaching session if you don't get control of it quickly. But you can learn a lot in those exploring the potential barriers.
I know we also say that the client has all the answers. Literally speaking, sometimes they don't, and neither does the coach. And that's when the invitation to find resources and support come in, because it's not your job to provide those answers for them. If you've got awesome resources, it might not be your job as a coach to provide those, but you could say, hey, where do you need to go to learn more information regarding what you want to do? Who do you need to talk to that may be a different kind of professional to help you in achieving these goals? And this sort of goes into like, what if they need resources for mental health professionals, or maybe, they're opening a business and they need to like find a lawyer, for example, for some of these questions and or goals they want to work on. Part of the coach's job is to invite them to consider how they're going to get those resources and outside support, because neither the client or the coach has the answers currently.
Yeah.
And let's pop ahead. We're moving through this one quick. Number 6, partners with the client to summarize learning and insight within or between sessions.
So I know a lot of the coaches tend to like to summarize for their clients. I tend to do it a little different. I ask my client to summarize their learning with me. If they have forgotten different things, that's when I will summarize and assist partnering with this segment. Sometimes that ability to just give them that space to think through, what they've just experienced, to me, I think is a golden ticket, because they have pulled from things that I would not have necessarily remembered, noticed, recognized. It's giving them that space. But there's things that I remember that they've shared or came up with that enhance what their takeaway is.
And I agree. I will invite my client to summarize that as well. I will often say something like, what have we covered today? What have we done today? Let's walk through what we discussed. And then I invite the client to, at that point, share their experience and share what the plan moving forward is. And they're the ones that are in charge of that. So I ask them to tell me, sort of summarize everything that has just happened and what the plan is and what the steps are, and what they'll be doing in between sessions. And agreed, I will ask into the things they've forgotten or those little moments. But for sure, I think I absolutely am one to have the client do the summarization and not me do it.
I think it's also good for memory and making a decision. So that ownership of what they're taking away, I think, is important. And knowing how they're going to remember it. I was trying to come up with another word. Stabilize that pattern that they're now trying to reestablish, that new learning, that new way of thinking, that new way of doing things. What's going to help them to remember to activate that versus the old pattern and old beliefs?
Yeah, I think the key word is partner. So if, as a coach, I'm offering a summary, I'm then following that up with, and what are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about that? Getting, again, confirmation, because they might say, actually, I would add to that, or actually, it's not that, it's this. So if you are partnering with the client, you're either asking them to summarize, or you're summarizing and then getting confirmation on, is that clear, or is there something I missed?
Yeah.
Number 7, celebrates the client's progress and successes. So what does that mean?
Throwing a party. Buying cake. No, that doesn't
Not for
mean
your
that.
weight loss clients.
No. We're not being cheerleaders. We're not doing the hoorah, you go, you're the best, you're amazing, all that stuff. I really don't like the way that they work. It's going to contradict what ICF is saying. It's more like acknowledging successes. you're identifying and observing and sharing that you had a goal, you're making progress towards this goal, and you've accomplished this goal. How do you want to celebrate it?
And how do you feel?
How do you feel about it? Even celebrating is like a baked in term. I would ask
It is.
probably instead, like, how do you feel about,
Yeah.
succeeding in this goal?
And
Yeah.
it is kind of a trap because they will get mad at you for being like, "Atta girl, you did it," So
Who will get mad at you, Brooke?
kind of mean. What?
Especially if you're
Who will
feeling
get mad at you? The client or the
ICF will.
ICF?
They'll ding you. Yeah.
In a
your
performance evaluation.
evaluations. Yeah.
Yeah. I think acknowledge is really more in alignment with the competency. So it is interesting that they use the word
We
celebrate.
should send them a note. I
Yeah.
do. I mean, it is. I think it's important for us to celebrate. I will say, the way that I kind of think of this, though, and that word celebrate is the moments when your clients aren't acknowledging the work that they've done, right? Because it happens where they don't necessarily recognize the progress they've made, and again, it's this acknowledge, though, and us allowing them to acknowledge that, asking into that. I think Misha said before she left, working with a client for 8 months, how would you have reacted month 1? How did you react month 8? And that, in that, hopefully, if there's been success, and it didn't go the other way, and hopefully they go, oh, okay, that's different. Okay, yeah, all right, I recognize it. That's different. Okay, and then we say, well, how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel? And then ask into those moments, and let them celebrate. Let them fill in those blanks and choose that celebration. It is. This is one of the hardest things
You
hard for me to do.
You could even use that word. How, and I think Anthony, you did. If this, assuming it is a celebratory moment, how will you celebrate your feelings in this space?
This is so hard because when I have a client that comes in and they're psyched, they're like, I did it, yes, and they've got that pumped up celebrating energy. I want to celebrate with them. I want to be like, yes, you did, good, yeah, I want to, and it is so hard for me.
Well, nothing says you can't match their energy. It's just you have to stay in the coaching frame.
So how do I match that energy? I'm genuinely asking.
I mean, you can be excited for them. Like, I'm glad you were feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do to celebrate?
Yeah.
Maybe I won't. Did they say? I'll ask further into that. Like, what does the success mean to you? How do you know that you did it? What do you feel like, going forward?
I mean, I feel like I'm going to just take this, celebrates the client's progress and successes, and run with it. And then if ICF ever says anything about it, I'm going to just reference this exact sub-competency and have some words with them, and either they get to change the writing or they're going to let me have a little celebration.
And for those of you watching in 102, if you do a performance evaluation with us, we're not going to ding you on this.
But don't cheerlead.
Don't cheerlead. We will ding you on that.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
We won't ding you on the celebrated. We might even acknowledge that you did it. We might celebrate your success in succeeding. All right, last one. We're getting a little out there.
Partners with the client to close the session.
That's a very nice way of the coach just saying, like, be mindful of your time and don't let it run too long.
What?
Because clients sometimes like to just keep on talking and talking and talking.
I think also this is everybody has their own way of closing their session. We do the summarize, we do the okay. I close it every time with, okay, when are we going to meet? When are we meeting next? What's the next? So you've got your plan. Okay, let's pick a date and a time. Let's get you on the calendar. Boom, bam, bingo. Alrighty, we'll see you then. Click, sign off.
I think this should have been part of like the definition of number 8. partners with the client to close the session, because that's what we just described throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, it's all kind of closing the
Yeah.
session here.
This one is
Right.
all cumulative. Mhm.
To me though, I when I hear this one, what I think of is like being a good steward of the time
Yeah.
and reminding the client, okay, we have 15 minutes left. Okay, with the 5 minutes that we have remaining, what are you taking away? Just
Or,
simple
yeah,
things like that. Just
if
being
with the time
the
we have,
leader of time.
with the time we have remaining, is there anything that you want to discuss in this last few minutes that will help you help you moving forward, or that is there anything we can work on in the allotted time we have? And a lot of times they'll say, no, man, I think we covered it all. But sometimes they'll go, there's this one thing that I just really want to quickly discuss. And I think it's being willing to make that final offer with the time you have, when you have time. You know what I mean? Like when you have that time.
So even another way of framing the question is, after we've considered everything we've covered, you've shared what you've shared, right? Does anything in what we've discussed today feel undone?
Is there anything we've missed?
Yeah.
Steve, a final session, that sounds ominous. We can discuss into that a couple ways quickly, I think, because there are a few ways the final session will happen, right? If your client has booked 12 a package with you, and that package is coming to an end, you have met your goal, there's nothing further to work on, boom, bingo. I mean, it's a final session. How do we end that? I think any normal way you would. It's been a pleasure working with you. Wish you well. Glad we got together. Peace.
I tend to treat my final sessions the same way as I do my discovery sessions. Like they're kind of special sessions. They're kind of special sessions that exist outside of normal coaching sessions. Because the discovery session, we got to figure out what it is you actually want to work on for, let's say, 10 sessions with each other. And the final session is sort of a retrospective on the entire coaching relationship. And then what is the client going to go do moving forward now that we're done with coaching?
And there's a few ways. That's when we've got a definite beginning and end, and those caps are there. I know there are a lot of coaches going, man, but we got to sell them the next package, right? Like,
yeah, then you invite them to your retreat,
your community, and then it can also happen organically. At times, there might come a point where the goal is reached. Client says, I got nothing really to coach on right now. We did it. I'm good, and that's okay. That's fantastic. You've done your job. Your client is ready to move forward, and that's wonderful. And again, I think Anthony's right. We would do a bit of a recap. We would wish them on their way. Don't panic, coaches. It's okay. You did your job.
That's good.
Ask for a testimonial.
Yeah, ask for a testimonial.
And a lot of times those clients will come back later on because they've hit another wall of some sort, and they recognize the ability that they developed in your presence and will want to do it again.
And also that you're not going to hold them hostage, that you're going to let them go forward, and they'll come back to you if they need it. I think that's important. We don't want to hold our clients hostage. The other great point, ask them for a testimonial, ask them for referrals.
Yeah, always for referrals.
Ask them for testimonial, ask them for referrals. A lot of times your clients don't even think about referring people to you until like just the stars align. But if you put that bug in their ear early, if you like the work we did here together, I really appreciate if you would leave me a Google review. It does amazing things for my business. And if you know anybody that could benefit from life coaching, please don't be afraid to give them my information. Yeah. I mean, you can build out referral programs and other things you can do, but it can be as simple as that, as simple as putting cards in their hand, as simple as, reminding them that you appreciate them sending referrals your way. And that Google review piece is fantastic. It does everybody really wonderful, or just a testimonial as well. All of those things are really good. You can also incentivize it. Sometimes there are ways to incentivize that review. But that probably would happen earlier on, less so in the final session, that incentivization. So, yeah.
And that's it. That's all the core competencies.
You know, you can do, if I have a 12, I'm just thinking of ways to incentivize Google reviews now. I'm just going to be quiet.
That's a different live, Brooke. That's completely different.
That's the live they want too.
Core competencies.
Several lives accommodate that.
Core competencies are part of every ICF accredited education. They're part of mentor coaching, what your mentor coach looks at. They're part of the performance evaluation when your assessor is looking at your recorded coaching session. And then they tend to trickle in with the ethics into your coach credentialing exam. So these are always woven into the fabric of your coaching, no matter what, when you're with.
And also, in that same vein, very important to know 102, that's why you're studying this. But we, as a company, have launched our mentor coaching and evaluation programs. So you can now sign up for group mentorship with us, and then also be evaluated by our evaluators rather than ICF's evaluators, and then receive a level 1 completion certificate from us. I think we're putting together a full level 1 packaged offering that will be released January 1st. Mm-hmm. So
like 3rd or 4th, but yes,
all of these things, very important, great things that we now offer. And so please look into that. Those of you in 102, I really encourage you to consider keeping your education going and checking out our mentor and evaluation packages. Done selling to you.